Cornbread is a staple in many households, especially around the holiday season. But is homemade better than simple mixes? I'll try 4 different mixes you can buy in American supermarkets versus my homemade recipe. Let's get baking. Hi, I'm Sune, and I'm not just a food enthusiast, I'm a full-blown food geek. I'm here to share my passion and knowledge with you. Today we're testing 4 popular cornbread mixes: Krusteaz, Martha White, Jiffy, and Betty Crocker, against a homemade version baked with Bob's Red Mill medium grind cornmeal to compare their texture, taste, and overall quality. Let's first look at what goes into each of these mixes. Krusteaz uses buttermilk, butter, and eggs. Martha White calls for milk and an egg. Jiffy requires milk and an egg. And Betty Crocker uses milk, butter, and an egg. If the recipe doesn't specify anything specific, I will use whole milk for the milk and unsalted butter for the butter. I will bake each batter at the specified temperature and for the recommended time. If the recipe gives an interval, I will check the cornbread at the shortest time, but I won't let it bake longer than the longest. Then I'll compare each cornbread made from a mix with the homemade recipe to see which truly delivers the best cornbread experience. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. You can also buy some merch or use the super thanks or check out the links for tools and ingredients in the description. Those were the words. This is the experiment. There's a link for the comparison and my cornbread recipe in the description. First, I heat my oven to 190 degrees Celsius, 375 degrees Fahrenheit with the convection fan on, which will be used for the first 2 recipes. The first mix I will tackle is Krusteaz. I add 236 milliliters or 1 cup of buttermilk, then 70 grams or a 1/3 cup of melted butter. Mix it a bit to cool the melted butter. Then 2 whole eggs. I mix it all, and then I add the mix. I mix it just enough to be homogeneous. I spray my pan with baking spray and add enough butter until it's 2/3 full. Then I bake it. The box says 16 to 18 minutes, so I will check after 16. And while pale, there's no dough on the skewer. Then it's Martha White. I add the mix, a beaten egg, and 118 milliliters or half a cup of milk. I mix until homogeneous. I spray the pan and add the mix until about 2/3 full. Then I bake it. The pack says 16 to 19 minutes, so I will check after 16. And it's done. The rest of the recipes are baked hotter, so I turn my oven up to 200 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Then it's Jiffy time, probably the most popular mix of the bunch. I add the mix, 79 milliliters or 1/3 cup of milk, and an egg. I mix until it's well combined. Spray the pan, add the batter until 2/3 full. The box says to let it rest for better oven spring, so I let it sit for a while. And then I bake it. The box says 15 to 20 minutes, so I check it at the 15-minute mark. Definitely not done. 18 minutes, no, almost done. 20 minutes, done. On to the Betty Crocker, 79 milliliters or a 1/3 cup of milk, 27 grams or 2 tablespoons of melted butter. I mix it to cool the butter. 1 egg, and then the mix, and I mix it until combined. I spray the pan, add the batter until it's 2/3 filled. I bake it. The pack says 16 to 19 minutes, so I check at 16, not done. And at 19, it's done. Off to my recipe. The oven is set to 200 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit with the fan on. Add 110 grams or a stick of melted butter to 236 milliliters or a cup of buttermilk. 120 grams or 2/3 cup of medium grind cornmeal. 125 grams or a scant cup of all-purpose flour. 1/8 teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Half a teaspoon of baking soda. 80 grams or a heaping half cup of packed dark brown sugar. Mix all the dry ingredients. 1 large egg and the buttermilk mixture. Mix until homogeneous. Spray the pan with baking spray. Add it until it's 2/3 full. The recipe makes a full bread pan of cornbread, and you better believe that I made that after I turned off the cameras. Bake for 20 minutes. If baking a whole pan, you may want to check with a skewer to see if it's done. If it comes out clean, you're good to go. Otherwise, bake more. When it's done, take it out. Cornbread is best served warm with copious amounts of butter. All right, let's have a look at the finished cornbread, and I will tell you my thoughts on the taste and texture. It has a pleasant smell, sweet. It smells good, but nothing remarkable. Almost no smell. It smells okay, but not much at all. It has a deeply caramelized smell with sweet corn notes. The texture is nice, pleasant taste, and it tastes like corn. It's on the salty side. It seems underbaked based on the recipe instructions. If I were to bake again, I would go for the full 18 minutes or until it's appropriately browned. Perfectly edible. It's sweet, but not overly so. It's a bit dry. The taste is disappointing, virtually no flavor at all. It has a dry and crumbly texture. The texture is extremely dry and crumbly, even more so than Jiffy. The taste is okay, but the texture ruins it. The flavor is distinct with natural sweetness from the brown sugar. The texture is coarser than the others, but that's quite nice. If you prefer a finer texture, fine cornmeal would work better. A clear winner for me. That was a pretty decisive test. If you want it quick and easy, the finished mixes get the job done, but the quality varies significantly. Jiffy and Betty Crocker were the driest and least flavorful, while Martha White was acceptable, but also a little dry. Krusteaz had a nice flavor and texture balance, but needed more baking time, but you can easily amend that. Homemade, however, gave the best overall experience. Deep flavor, perfect sweetness, and a balanced texture that highlights the corn. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you prefer homemade or do you swear by a specific mix? I hope you learned something today. See you next time.